Greetings from the Guild, gamers. I'm Guildmaster Jason. Welcome to Tabletalk Tuesday. For those of you who don't know, Tabletalk Tuesday is when I, Guildmaster Jason, give you guys some advice on how to run and or how to play in your role-playing games. Games like Dungeons & Dragons, Pathfinder, Cthulhu, what have you. Now, I realize not everybody who plays games runs games, so I try to give advice that works not just for DMs, but also for players. The topic of today's Tabletalk Tuesday is going to be non-combat solutions. Okay, so Magic the Gathering, Warhammer 40k, and let's say HeroClix. What do all three of these games have in common? All three of these games are combat-oriented games, unlike Dungeons & Dragons. Dungeons & Dragons and other role-playing games aren't all about combat, they're more about storytelling. There's a lot more to the game than fighting and slashing and casting spells and making fireballs burn people into nothing. Not that that's not fun. I mean, it's plenty of fun, don't get me wrong. As players, just try to keep in mind that your blades and your spells are not your only tools. And as DMs, when you're planning a session, keep in mind that these characters aren't just warriors, they're also people with personalities and individuals and skill sets of their own outside of combat. So give them a chance to use those skills in ways other than slashing and gashing through all their enemies. So, let's look at a couple of non-combat solutions to issues that your characters may be facing in your campaigns. The first non-combat solution, and possibly the most obvious, is diplomacy. You don't always have to fight your way out of everything. Sometimes, some people are reasonable. Not everyone's reasonable, but some people can be reasoned with. Use your words. That persuasion skill is not there on your character sheet for nothing. Perhaps there's a foreign noble who is planning on invading your homeland, and maybe you could go talk to him instead of bashing his skull in. You could convince him that opening up a line of trade with your homeland might be more prosperous and profitable for him than invading. Another non-combat solution is treachery. Treachery is any solution that sort of involves deceiving. So playing a kind of political intrigue game behind people's back, that could be considered treachery. Using illusion spells to get your way and trick people into thinking something that isn't exactly the case, that's another example of treachery. To give a specific example, let's say you and your party are trying to cross a valley that's inhabited by territorial orc tribes. Now, whatever's on the other side of this valley, you need all your spell slots, you need to be at full hit points and everything for that, so you don't want to waste resources and energy fighting these orcs. One option might be to just kind of use either, if someone's really good with the disguise kit, or maybe even some illusion magic, to make themselves invisible, make themselves look like orcs, make themselves look like other animals, whatever may work for the situation, and pass through the valley without problem. So that covers diplomacy and treachery, two non-combat solutions to whatever problems your characters may have in your campaign. The last non-combat solution is creativity, something completely out of the box. Now this option is always going to be situation specific because it could involve doing just about anything. But I'll give you guys one very specific example that happened to me just a couple of nights ago. So in Adventures of Azaria, a campaign ran by guild member Kevin, I was playing a half-elf ranger whose favorite enemy was the undead. Now the town that my character had been living in for a while suddenly became under attack by what seemed to be an army of the undead. Now this was a small town and accordingly had kind of a small town sheriff type of character. This sheriff was actually another party member. When these creatures attacked, we were able to kind of fend off the attack as much as we could until eventually they gave up, but we knew they were going to be back. Now, considering that undead were my ranger's favorite enemy, he was really concerned about this and the safety of the town. The sheriff, however, in my character's opinion, didn't seem too worried about it and was more concerned with kind of keeping everything hush-hush, not to disturb the town, so to speak. Whereas my character felt that the town needed to be stirred up and prepared to defend itself. Now out of game, I knew that this character was actually another party member, but since it was the first session, our party just hadn't united yet. So I didn't want to start the game off with inter-party cohesion by trying to beat the hell out of the sheriff until he decided to see things my way. So my character got a little creative. For fending off this attack of the undead, he was awarded a platinum, which he quickly took to a supply store. Not a spell shop, not a weapon shop, not an armor shop, a general supply store. where he spent that platinum purchasing as much parchment and ink as he possibly could. He then spent the rest of the night writing up flyers. These flyers were essentially making people aware that the undead were coming out of the ground, that there was reason to believe they would strike again very soon, a militia needed to be formed, and that people needed to be prepared to arm themselves. In the dead of night, he went around town dispersing these 500 flyers all over the place. The next morning, the sheriff quickly realized that this event he was trying to keep hush-hush, everybody in the entire town suddenly knew about it. That was sort of my character's way of forcing his hand without any need for combat. Some people might consider that a dick move, but I think it'll make a good story. We'll see what happens. So those are just 3 of potentially endless examples of non-combat solutions. If you guys have any non-combat solutions you'd like to share, be sure to comment on this video. If you have any ideas for next week's Tabletalk Tuesday, send us a message and let us know. The best way to get a hold of us is through our Facebook page. Until next time, game on, gamers.